growing up in a typical Asian American family, there's three things that your family wants you to be: doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer.
Right.
So I led that life. You know, my parents, ironically, were actually in the food industry. They were caterers, and just all through growing up, you know, they've always set their career as an example in which that this is the route that you don't want to go.
Oh, no. And you fell into it, right?
Yeah, so, you know, they've always emphasized on, you know, make sure you go to school, get a good education, get a good job, have a nice car, a nice house, get married, have 2.4 kids, and all that stuff. I studied engineering, and I switched my major to finance. And then I got into finance, I worked in banks, and then I ultimately ended up working in a software company as an analyst. And, you know, I tell you, it's, you know, I was fortunate enough to make a lot of money in the beginning, and I can tell you this, that money means nothing, you know. You know, I spent a lot, I treated out a lot of friends, and at the end of the day, I was just still kind of like wondering, am I happy? But ultimately, you know, just watching my parents growing up cooking, somehow it just kind of
It was in your bones, right?
Yeah, it just resonated within me. So, after college, I went to culinary school, California Culinary Academy in San Francisco, and
You got disowned.
I didn't get disowned. You know, somehow my parents actually approved of me going. They're like, you know what, go ahead, do it. You know, because they've always known that, you know, that this is for me. So I went to culinary school, and it ended up being a total joke. I hated it. You know, I want to say probably a third of the school year. I spent my time surfing, sleeping in my car, because I hated culinary school. You know, like, a lot of the instructors weren't serious, a lot of the students weren't serious, so it wasn't a good environment for me. What really changed me was my internship. I got the opportunity to work for a gentleman named Laurent Gras at the Fifth Floor restaurant in San Francisco. And at that time when I first started, he just got nominated as Food and Wine Magazine's Best New Chef. So they choose 10 chefs each year. And just to name a few, you got Thomas Keller, Daniel Boulud, you know, some of the greats. And I got a chance to work with this guy, and I got my ass kicked every single day. There were periods where I would literally almost want to break down and cry. But, you know, you have a choice at the end of the day, whether to continue to pursue that passion or just to give up and go back to your old lifestyle. And, you know, I didn't like my ass getting kicked, but at the same time I did, because it really pushed me. Right now I'm based in Salt Lake City, and as much as I am a Californian, you know, I love working with seafood. But at the same time, I incorporate a lot of things from the area. You know, if you were to come to my restaurant and eat, you would be able to experience a certain a regional cuisine that you can't get anywhere else, because we use so many ingredients that are just indigenous to that area within, like, you know, a 10-20 mile radius. It's funny, when people look at me, they automatically assume Asian food. You know, I don't know how to cook a thing of Asian food. One of the yeah, you know, one of the
What kind of catering did your parents do? Italian?
You know, they did American food, Spanish food, Chinese food, Vietnamese food. They did all of it. But you know, just growing up and eating Vietnamese food every single day, I wanted something different. So I was that kid growing up. If I had a choice between going to get some Chinese food or getting a hamburger, I was all about the hamburger. Yeah. So, you know, it wasn't until recently that I started to play around with a lot more Asian ingredients, because you get to a certain point as a cook and you're trying to find that voice. For me, I'm trying to find that voice. And how do you find that voice, you know? So you start looking back, your upbringing, your history, your family, you know, all of these things. And, you know, just to give you an example, one of the first ingredients I've started to use is fish sauce. Before, I used to absolutely hate that stuff. But, you know, actually fish sauce is something that didn't even originate from Asia. It's actually Italian. The Italians were one of the ones that first used it. So, yeah, you know, I started to play around with fish sauce, and it's one of those things where if you use a lot of it, it's absolutely wretched.
Yeah.
But if you use enough, it's awesome. I mean, it brings out so many different flavor profiles, and it just adds that umami that everybody's craving for nowadays. So I feel like right now I'm in a point of my career, my craft, where, you know, I just want to focus on maybe just 3 ingredients on a plate, and really trying to find the deepest point of flavor in those 3 ingredients and harmonizing them.
Yeah.
that I feel is probably a mark of a really great chef.